commitments, and then recommendations for variations, if any. Chair, the mandate of the Office of the Auditor General is anchored in Article 250 of the Constitution, 249, 250. According to the Constitution, the Auditor General is mandated to audit government expenditures, government revenues, and all institutions which receive government finances. In this perspective, the office is charged with the responsibility of providing audit services to public and other institutions that receive government subventions. In doing this, honorable members, the office contributes to pillar number 4 of the 8th National Development Plan. Unless you want me to read word by word.
Auditor General, you are at liberty to speak to the presentation. So you can speak to the salient features.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Yeah, so you are on firm ground.
Thank you. The office contributes to pillar number 4 of the 8th National Development Plan, which focuses on good governance, environment, specifically under development outcome number 1, improved policy and governance environment. Strategy 3, strengthen transparency and accountability mechanisms. To this effect, the office in its final year of implementing its strategic plan for 2022 to 2026. Chair, having given that background, I move on to the 2026 budget overview. The office has been allocated a total budget provision of 248,119,696 kwacha in 2026 for the implementation of 2 programs. The first program is external audit and assurance. The second program is Chair, management and support services program. Chair, you will notice from my submission that our budget has essentially decreased by 2%. Last year we were given 252,264,875. The budget that has been allocated to the office is to enable us carry out our mandate, and in carrying out this mandate, we produce a number of reports. These reports, Honorable Chair, are submitted to the Executive and Parliament. We undertake our audit. Our office is structured, Chair. We basically have something like 8 departments: public debt and investment audit, specialized audits, local authorities, provincial appropriation audits. We have got revenue audits, we've got ministerial audits, we've got planning and information, and then we have got administration. All these departments, Chair, have been allocated certain amounts from the budget. The objective of this program is to provide timely and value-adding audit services for enhanced accountability and transparency in the management of public resources. To attain this objective, the office conducts financial, compliance, and performance audits, which are sometimes called value for money audits. In 2026, the office will prioritize audits in critical areas of national importance, such as audit of revenue and the social and economic programs in health, agriculture, extractive industries, education, water, energy, social welfare, and infrastructure development. Furthermore, the office has made specific provision for audit of the Constituency Development Fund and the social welfare programs such as social cash transfer and food security pack. The expected outcomes from these audits, honorable members, are a report of the Auditor General on the accounts of the Republic for the year ended 31st December 2025. We will also produce a report on parastatal bodies and other statutory institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2025. We will also produce a report on the accounts of local authorities for the year ended 31st December 2025. We will also produce a report on the Constituency Development Fund for the year ended 31st December 2025, and we have planned to produce 6 performance audit reports. Chairperson, in the light of the aforementioned and being cognizant of the important role of the Office of the Auditor General in enhancing public finances management in government ministries, provinces and spending agencies and local authorities, a total of 152,070,658 kwacha has been provided in the 2026 budget for the External Audit and Assurance Program, which represents 61% of the office's total budget. There is a 7% reduction in the budget allocation for this program from the 2025 budget provision of 163,581,676. I move on to the second program, which is Management and Support Services Program. The objective of this program is to provide effective and efficient administrative and management support services to the office. This program supports the office's core value, the core functions. The program has 5 sub-programs, namely Human Resource Management and Administration, Financial Management, Accounting, Financial Management, Internal Audit, Procurement Management, Planning, Policy, Coordination, and Information Management. In order to fully support the effective implementation of the core function of the office, there is a need to support the office in the following key areas. The first area, Chair, honorable members, the office requires adequate resources to facilitate the establishment of the operationalization of the State Audit Commission, which is critical for strengthening the governance and oversight of the Office of the Auditor General. Secondly, the office requires investment in alternative power sources such as solar systems, particularly the provincial offices, to ensure uninterrupted operations. Thirdly, the office must consistently maintain and rehabilitate its existing infrastructure at both provincial and headquarters in order to preserve functionality and support effective service delivery. Fourthly, the office requires a reliable and well-serviced fleet of vehicles to enable officers to execute audit assignments across the country in an efficient and timely manner. Lastly, is to enhance staff productivity and morale. The office needs to provide a conducive work environment through the procurement of office furniture and specialized audit tools that support the efficient execution of audits. The expected output under this program is the production of the annual report on the performance of the Office of the Auditor General. This program supports the audit function to ensure timely delivery of the Auditor General's constitutional mandate. In view of this, a budget allocation of 96,049,038 kwacha has been provided for the Management and Support Program in 2026, representing 39% of the office's total budget. This reflects an increase of 8% in the program's allocation from 88,680,195 allocated in 2025, which can be attributed to establishment of the State Audit Commission. Adequacy and the ramifications, I move on to the next part. Adequacy and the ramifications of the 2026 budget allocation in meeting set targets. The estimates of revenue and expenditure for 2026 national budget amount to 253 billion kwacha, while the Office of the Auditor General, which is required to provide oversight of the national budget, has been allocated 248 million kwacha, representing 0.1% of the 2026 national budget. The budget is therefore insufficient and raises concerns about achieving the set performance targets. In the third part of my presentation, how the budget aligns with the national and international commitments. The 2026 budget allocation includes funds for the establishment of the State Audit Commission, which aims to strengthen the financial and administrative autonomy of the Office of the Auditor General. The State Audit Commission Act number 27 of 2016 was operationalized by the government in 2025. In addition, the government operationalized the Public Audit Act number 29 of 2016 in 2025. The Public Audit Act number 29 of 2016 supersedes the Public Audit Act number 8 of 1980. It aims at, among other things, enhancing operational capacity of the Office of the Auditor General by providing financial and administrative autonomy through charging and collecting fees for services provided by the office, and the determination of the emoluments of the Office of the Auditor General by the State Audit Commission. I move on to the last part, honorable members. Chairperson, there are no variations which we recommend, but we take note of the budget reduction of 2% of the overall budget of the Office of the Auditor General. In conclusion, Chairperson, I wish to thank you and your committee for extending an invitation to my office to submit the 2026 budget memorandum for Office of the Auditor General to the Committee on Parastatal Bodies and other institutions. I thank you.
Auditor General, we would like to thank you for your candid submission. Our members are now at liberty to ask questions, to clarify any submissions from the Auditor General. Honorable Kampiongo.
Thanks so much, Chair, and maybe just to press myself on record, I apologize for coming a bit slightly late. My name, Auditor General, is Stephen Kampiongo, MP for Shwangandu constituency. Chairperson, I think I joined at a time when the Auditor General was presenting the critical parts of the budget. I would like to just find out, you have shared with us that the increase in the budget this year, the marginal increase is just about 8%. The projected inflation rate, which stands at 12% plus, will certainly just, the projection for next fiscal year is about 7.7. Would you safely say that this marginal increase would just cater to try and match the inflation, the projected inflation rate, even as we have seen that there has been failure to match that rate in the previous allocations, and that the allocations have been declining the previous 2 years, two fiscal years. So I would like you to speak to that, and maybe, Chairperson, the interesting part, part is where he talks about the 253 billion, which is the entire budget, and then they've only been allocated 252 million for them to ensure that the budget credibility, which is very key, and this depends on how the appropriated funds to expenditure to spending agencies is utilized. What would you suggest to this committee, which is actually also whose work, the work of this committee depends on your reports? what would you be suggesting? Because we wouldn't sit here and not do anything that would be helpful to you and consequently helpful to this committee. Because the whole essence of this committee depends on your work. So if your work is not, done to the expectation, we are also affected. What are we going to be, providing our oversight services to? And lastly, Chair, on his recommendation to say that it doesn't recommend any variation, I would like you to strike a balance. Yes, indeed, it is important to establish this State Audit Commission in fulfillment of the Act, which has already got the commencement order signed. But what would you choose between the two, given the circumstance? You have limited resources, and then you have got a bit of money that should go to the operationalization of this commission. The work that you are undertaking is affected on one hand. So if I had to put it to you, how would you want to strike a balance? I thank you, Chairperson.
Before the Auditor General response, would you just clarify on the 8% increase? It's not the increase in the overall budget, but just in a specific budget line, yes. Because overall there's a 2% reduction in the budget. Yes, please, go ahead.
So now with that clarification, Chair, I would want to find out now that there's 2% decrease in the budget. Then we have got this, of course we are yet to know whether indeed single-digit inflation rate will be achieved. It's just a projection. Let's just assume we go with the 12% plus. How does this work out for you? I submit, Chair.
Thanks so much. Auditor General.
Thank you so much, Chair. Honorable Member for Shwangando has asked so many questions. I'll try and respond. With respect to the expected inflation rate of 12% vis-a-vis the 2% increase, Chair, when the Minister of Finance is doing budgeting, they look at various permutations, including the expected inflation rate. There are a lot of key variables which they look at, and when they determine what amounts to put in the budget, they've actually considered what we are talking about, the issues to do with inflation and things like that. So I take it that when they were allocating these amounts, they looked at those permutations, because I mean it's key, it's one of the key things that you look at when you are actually budgeting. It's like when I'm doing my own personal projections, I also look at what is likely to affect my projections. So it's the same thing. Minister of Finance looked at this, they came up with the figures that they gave us. In as much as we think that it may not be enough for us to execute our programs, but it's my belief that they looked at various aspects before they gave us what they gave us. And you see, this ties me to the issue of, just to try and answer your questions, I think, the reason why we came up with the State Audit Commission, honorable members may wish to know that I'll give you a bit of background on this, so that maybe we put it into context, and maybe we can. Honorable members may wish to know that the idea of the State Audit Commission started in 2016. And when we started this State Audit Commission and the revision of the Public Audit Act, it was out of the realization that, one, the office was not adequately independent in terms of financial independence, because we're not getting what we perceived we should get. And two, the operational independence. And Chair, I can mention that I am the one who started this in 2016. This was after I saw what was happening in other countries. I was in West Africa for some time. And this idea, Ghana have got a board. And this is where I picked it from. When I came back to this country, I said, why don't we enhance the operations of the office in line with the Lima Declaration of 1977? Because the Lima Declaration of 1977 talks about operational and financial independence. So we were trying to cure what we are talking about now. Do we get enough resources? Do we have operational independence? So my belief is that by the coming in of this State Audit Commission is going to cure some of the things that we are talking about, because the State Audit Commission will be looking at the budget of the office. So hopefully we will be able to, to address. We have noticed over the years that the allocation to the Office of the Auditor General has never been adequate. And we are alive to the fact that we are getting money from the same pool, Ministry of Finance. And public finance management demands, or is one of the things, Ministry of Finance always sets the ceilings. Be it in Zambia, be it in the UK, be it anywhere, the ceilings are always there. So we live within those ceilings. But if you look at the Public Audit Act, there is an article there which empowers the Auditor General to charge fees. So with intervention, the financial independence may be cured to some extent. I think that's how I can, because I think it's Honorable Campion answers about that.
Honorable Campion.
Chair, thank you so much, Chair. I appreciate the responses from the Auditor General. Auditor General, I appreciate your responses, and certainly I understand the aspect of ceilings, how they are given to you, and the parameters that the Minister of Finance considers. My question was just simple. Bearing in mind all those issues, I wanted to know how this was going to impact on your annual work plan, basically. Bearing, we know that they had all these parameters when they were giving you a ceiling. And when I asked about how you can balance the act, yes, we appreciate that idea, and I think all of us who were there when the 2016 Constitution was being crafted, we bought into the idea, because there's been this talk about he who pays the piper calls the tune, and that the funding to Auditor General is perceived in many ways, and so we bought into the idea. That's why it's part of the Constitution. My question was the implementation. It has been sitting, just like many other commissions that are sitting in the Constitution, Chairperson. So why I was asking is that, yes, it has been sitting in the Constitution, it requires operationalization. You have got this challenge. Your key functions will certainly be affected by the funding constraints, and yet you have to operationalize this. So if you have to strike a balance, how would you do? Do you go to implement this, to operationalize this State Commission? In the meantime, your core functions are affected negatively. That's what I wanted to find out. That idea you brought up was well meant, and all of us who were there when we were implementing the Constitution bought into it, and that's how this State Audit Commission is sitting in the Constitution, pending operationalization. So that's what I wanted to find out, Chair.
Auditor General, The question from the honorable member is basically talking about the core mandate of the ministry. Is there a form? Sorry about that. The core mandate, as you did your presentation here, you talked about implementing 2 programs in 2026. The External Audit and Assurance Program, with those sub-programs that you elucidated on page 2, and also Management and Support Services Program, as you elucidated on page 4. And the core program, when it comes to the first one, External Audit and Assurance Program, has suffered a 7% reduction in budget allocation for the year 2026. And so, knowing how important, how pivotal that core function is in your mandate, how then would you take some resources and engage on operationalizing the State Audit Commission, when what would have been logical would have been your office lobbying with the Minister of Finance for specific funding to operationalize the State Audit Commission? Because once the commencement order is signed, it is a statutory instrument and it is subsidiary legislation. It must be operationalized. There must be funding for it. Why did we have to start picking from a core activity instead of looking for specific funding, notwithstanding your position on ceilings? In the tautology of words, that's what Honorable Kampiongo is trying to request. Maybe I will end there and ask you to respond to that before we go to the next.
It's a very, very valid question. Chair, my response to that would be that we engage with the Ministry of Finance, and the operationalization of the State Audit Commission started coming up, I think, throughout the year. I think if you've been following, you may have noticed that it was quite topical at one point, and rightly so, because some people felt that this was a vehicle through which certain things within the office could be done. So it was important that this is actually operationalized. We went to Minister of Finance. In fact, the original budget is not what we were given. I think they had to give us some more money to add it to what the initial ceiling. So from that initial ceiling, the 17 million has gone to operationalize the State Audit Commission. Now, the core function, yes, it has suffered a 7% reduction in terms of funding, but it is my view that in as much as we still require some finances to execute our core functions, we can be able to execute our core functions within the monies that we have been given. Chair, it is not the first time that the Auditor General has not been adequately funded. I must stress this. It is not the first time that the Auditor General has not been adequately funded. The Auditor General's office has been inadequately funded for a number of years now. And I'm privileged to know that because I've been in the office for a long time. It is not only this year. But that notwithstanding, we have always managed to execute our mandate. So within the resources that we have been given, we will try to make sure that we execute our mandate. In addition, there's a provision in the Public Audit Act for us to charge fees. So, with the operationalization of this Public Audit Act and putting the framework through which we can charge these fees, we should be able to collect enough resources to cover up for the 7%. So what we need to do is to make sure that what is in the Public Audit Act is actually put into effect.
I will refer you to page 6 of your presentation, and it starts from page 5, talking about the adequacy and ramifications of the 2026 budget allocation in meeting set targets. And what you say on page 6 is that the budget is insufficient and raises concerns about achieving the set performance targets. How do you reconcile that with your position that you will still manage? Yes, you want to the Auditor General was just trying to give comfort to this committee that they could manage with the inadequacy. But if you go to page 5, adequacy and ramifications of the 2026 budget allocation in meeting set targets, then you go to paragraph, actually the first paragraph, now the last sentence in the first paragraph on page 6, he says the budget is therefore insufficient and raises concerns about achieving the set performance targets. So I'd like him to reconcile the two statements. You want to? You have a rider? Okay. You can start.
Thank you. A rider to that is in agreeing with the position that they have given us here. If you go to the table 6 on the budget, the unpackaging of the budget, it's 07. The performance key indicators. 2024, you were at 82% in 2024. 2025, as we sit, you are at 18%, 18.2%, according to the analysis that we have here. So, this is the concern that we have. Whether you have changed, the status has changed, that it's something that you need to share with us. So it goes to what you are saying, Honorable Chair, because the analysis of the performance indicators that 2025 really raises serious concerns.
Yeah. Honorable, take note of that question. Please, Honorable Msumali, you can proceed.
Chair, I have taken note of all the questions that Honorable Kampiongo has raised, mainly in reference to the inflation, which in the policy statement by leader of the House, the forecast to a single digit, and the limitations of the decrease in the budget by the Auditor General and what they expect in their operations for 2026. I actually sympathize with the Office of the Auditor General. They've got a mountain of work to climb. Their duties and responsibilities that they play, especially in the oversight role, cannot be overemphasized. However, I got the submission yesterday by the Minister of Defense. He assured the office that what is contained in the budget is not cast in concrete. He assured you that if you feel that you are overstretched by the reduction in the budget allocation, there will be need for you to knock at his door, so that you visit the Minister of Finance, so that you can have a consideration to be funded further, maybe through the supplementary budget. I would like to also to maybe urge the Auditor General, maybe next time they should tabulate, like let's say, the challenges that they are having, particularly in the reliable transport. In that case of unreliable transport, the fleet is only inadequate but also very old, resulting in high maintenance costs. It's a pity, Chair, that they have found themselves in such a precarious situation. But they need really good transport for them to reach to every corner that their services are required. In view that they've been given another burden for the CDF. So, in my view, Chair, we can be sitting here lamenting, questioning them, but definitely we'll just come to one conclusion, that the money that has been allocated may be not enough, as it has been reducing according to what they have said year in, year out. I think that was just a comment that I have observed in their submission.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you so much, Honorable Smalley. So our engagement with the leader of government business, it was our considered view that you are insufficiently resourced, and we actually appealed to him to lobby with the Minister of Finance to increase your budget. So are you telling us we were not on firm ground to request the Minister of Finance to change your budget ceiling, because the Auditor General has managed before under constrained circumstances? Like you heard from the Honourable Member, we did tell the leader of government business that these ceilings are not fixed in ironmongery and could be adjusted. Now, because of the significance of your office, to ensure that all government institutions, parastatal bodies, donor-funded agencies, and any institution that receives donor or taxpayers' money is audited, would like you to have sufficient resources. That's the reason we're appealing for that. And when we see reductions in key programs, particularly in the first program, we get worried, because we think that would compromise, your quality of work. Now, don't get the submissions wrong. The importance of the State Audit Commission and the Audit Act, Public Audit Act, cannot be underrated. That's extremely important. And we would like to state, in the past we've argued that we need to see innovation in your office to raise resources outside, Treasury. So when we see the Public Audit Act come in with the hope of raising resources charging fees. For us, that's how I would like to see a budget, you know, where there are revenue measures as we talk about expenditure. So don't get anything wrong. We would like that to proceed. We are requesting that that allocation of resources shouldn't compromise the core functions that you do as you operationalize you know, those. I think that is the summary of that submission. Yeah, I will request your comments on that before I take the next set of queries.
Thank you so much, Chair. I've taken note of the comments from the honorable members. I do note the fact that our budget has reduced. I am taking the solace in the fact that, like I mentioned, this Public Audit Act has been operationalized. It's for us to explore the avenue of collecting fees from some of these clients who we audit. The South African Audit Office does not get money from the Treasury. They actually charge fees. It is my belief that once we put into place what we are supposed to do with the Public Audit Act, we should be able to collect enough money from these institutions which we are auditing, to the extent that we will significantly reduce our dependence on the Treasury. So that is the way I see it. And in a space where there are limited resources, I think the responsibility of any responsible leader is to explore innovations of how you can actually raise resources. And this is the way I see it. And this is why I think we pushed for the operationalization of this, from the realization that the office has inadequately been resourced from I don't know how many years. It is not just this year. Last year I think we talked about this. I remember appearing before you, Honorable Chair. We talked about it, because even last year there was a reduction, you see. So, and I don't, it may happen, but I don't see us getting the funding from the Treasury that we need, because there are so many competing needs. But if we properly operationalize our Public Audit Act, we should be able to raise enough resources for us to undertake what we are supposed to undertake. That would be my take for that.
Proceed. As a matter of fact, let this committee go on record that it shares your position. Okay, we need to see innovation in revenue generation. It's a pity that in one of the meetings last year, when alternative funding charging fees was raised, we had submissions about compromise, you know, and loss of focus, at least one of the meetings that I attended. And I'm very happy that we're on the same page today. Revenue generation in innovative, sustainable ways is the only way to go for us to sustain your office. It's expanding, it's growing, and you need to ensure fiduciary integrity and accountability on the part of people charged with the responsibility to manage taxpayers' resources. So we fully support that position. At the same time, we wouldn't like to see any compromise as you embark on that program, on the credibility of the other programs that you have elucidated here. Honorable Anakoka.
Thank you very much, and good morning, AG and DAG and I think the Director. And good morning, Chair. My name is Muvita Anakoka, Member of Parliament for Luena constituency. Chair, I didn't come late. I was just outside. Chair, I'm very happy that in the submission by the Auditor General, the Public Audit Act has been addressed. Yeah, because in the policy statement by the leader of government business, this issue was missing. And personally, I was very worried, and I did raise the question about this Public Audit Act. I must say that for me, this is probably the biggest change that is coming up in the country next year. It's probably the biggest change in this budget. However, its significance might be a little bit difficult to appreciate because of its nature. Chair, it has been a misnomer in the way things have been handled in the past, where auditees were receiving these audit services, which is a high-value service, but they were not having a corresponding charge on their financial statements corresponding to this service that they were receiving. And as a result, it was the financial statements were themselves not reflective of reality, which is why it has been not in line with international standards all along. So the Public Audit Act is bringing that aspect into reality. Number two, it's also giving the independence to the Office of the Auditor General for once. You can't be going to auditees and asking them to fund you in order to audit them adequately. If they have something to hide, they just make it difficult for you to go and check what has happened at the palm, the palm oil farm. So you can't get there. All you can do is desk review, and so your audit standards therefore are seriously compromised. So for me, this is very exciting. But my question is, whilst we are getting excited here that you will end up with a lot of money, more than probably is actually included in the budget here, because Chair, audit firms are raising millions in this same industry, and they are raising from entities that are handling far less money than the government is actually handling. So I strongly believe this will suffice. But my question now is, do we have this budget line included in the proposed budgets of all the auditees, audit fees? Because if it's not included, then it means we might be talking about this incorporated on your side, but on the auditees it's missing. So we need this to be included. And secondly, I would want to find out, no, is that thirdly? Okay, then I'll end there. Do we have this included in the auditees?
Thank you very much. Further questions? Honorable Nyamba.
Thank you, Chair. Acting AG, mine, I know you have allocated money, especially on page 6, where you have said there is an increase in budget allocation, especially in health and education. And maybe just as you go, you know, you have got a timeline, things that you are going to look into. But I'm also concerned with the grants that are given to schools, if it can be also addressed as you go to audit, because those grants sometimes they are being abused. And also the feeding program is well meant, but the way things are on the ground from constituencies, I'm sure honorable members of parliament would agree with me. The food, the maize, it doesn't reach to the beneficiaries. Maybe sometimes it is being shared. If that one can be also looked into it. Thank you very much, Chair.
Yes.
Mr. Honorable Musumali here. So whilst we are talking about the auditees including this in their line, we also would like to know whether it isn't possible for you to anticipate the audit fees, even as an estimate of the revenue that's due to these auditees, so that in your revenues you are able to indicate what you expect to realize from audit fees next year. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Honorable Kampiongo.
My rider on the questions posed by my colleague Honorable Nokoka. We have seen recently Minister of Finance outsourcing audit service from private audit firms, and as we know in the framework, it's office that is supposed to recommend the contraction of such services. And of course huge sums of money are paid out to those private audit firms. Are we seeing an end to that with the coming in of the new act? And what stopped the Auditor General from probably undertaking those audit assignments for a fee from Ministry of Finance. I thank you, Chair.
Yes, Honorable Member.
Okay, sorry, Acting AG. I just want to find out on behalf of the honorable members, you have been in an acting position for too long. Each time you appear before us acting, what could be, we want to see you being permanently AG, not acting. Thank you.
AG, as you take credit for the Public Audit Act, we also had, as we navigated that issue with the leader of government business, that you are still doing regulations. We got assurance that you will expedite. Would you like to attach a time frame and commit to this committee at operational level how soon we'll have those regulations? Because the commencement order is running ahead of the Act.
Thank you so much, honorable members. I think let me start with the easier one. In my acting capacity, I think that's honorable member that is outside my.
No questions are easier.
It's outside my jurisdiction, and I think if you recall, there was a court case not very long ago on this matter. So I would like to leave it there. So I think we talked about the anticipated audit fees. Can we anticipate the audit fees that we can charge on? I think this is, we can do this, I think, because
so when it comes to the charging of fees, as you are aware that the Act has just been operationalized, so we are yet to develop the guidelines, the regulation, how this will be done. So for 2026, we will operate normal as you've seen in the budget, to be financed through the means of finance when it comes to audit operations fees. So it's other year possible in 2027 once the guidelines have been developed, then modalities are agreed with the means of finance and clients how the charging will be done.
So you see, Director, be cautious.
Yes.
As you say that, because the Auditor General escaped his submission here, escaped the accusation that he was contradicting himself when he talked of being able to survive with the money that is in the budget, because there is a Public Audit Act that will bring more money on the table. You are just pulling the rug off the Auditor General's feet. Would you like to reconcile?
The Chair, I think there's nothing that stops us from charging audit fees next year, because the Audit Act is in operation, and I don't foresee us taking 1 year to do these regulations. It's there are already models which are in existence. The South African model, in fact, I think there are some 2 members of staff who are supposed to go to the South African Audit Office. I've already liaised with the Auditor General of South Africa just to go and see how the model is operated. So we should be able to do that before the end of this year, and then come up with modalities on how we are going to charge these audit fees. I know that some agencies already have a budget line on their, in their books for this. When you talk about parastatals, you talk about these local authorities, you talk about these government-aided institutions, they already have budget lines on. So it's for us to just to see how we are going to do it. For government ministries, we also pretty much have an idea of what we can actually charge, because we know the expenses that we incur when we audit them. So we know how much we can actually expect from them. We know also that maybe the challenge for our government ministries is that they may not have a budget line for this coming year, but it is something that we can phase out. But for these other institutions, there's absolutely no reason why we should not do it. I think the honorable member Kampyongo asked me a question outsourcing of.
So before you get to that, can we reconcile the position? The position is that you expedite the production of the production of the guidelines, and you will not just rely on Treasury next year, but on a more resilient and sustainable line that is provided through the Public Audit Act. So when you are next to Honorable Kampiongo and yeah, so that is the position I would like to take.
Yes.
And the concern about budget lines for auditees from government spending agencies, that is what either may call for a variation. They do spend when you visit them, and then secondly, that's what we may push to the following year if that is not navigable.
Chair, it's quite possible for us to charge this. Even ministries, because there are certain times when they, when they like local authorities. This year, if it wasn't for the Ministry of Local Government to supplement us to audit the local, we wouldn't have managed, because we were being funded by this devolved program. There was a budget line there, but since they withdrew, Minister of Local Government had to find money for the local authorities to be audited, which they deducted from the local authorities when they were funding them. So it is quite possible to do this. We just need to sit down with the Treasury, Secretary to Treasury, and make sure that we develop this together, and we are going to do that.
I urge you on. We set up NIMA, and there were always all these teething problems, but it ended up being the backbone, of healthcare financing, as envisaged. So I urge you on, and if all institutions could actually focus on innovative financing for what they are doing, other than compete in a small pot with many sectors, would actually be making it easy for Treasury to run the economy. So we urge you on that. You can respond to the last question before we ask for the last round. Well, the perpetrator of the violence is out of the room.
I want him to listen to my response.
So next round of questions. Any further questions? Right.
He's not here, but I'll respond. I'm sure. he says in recent times he has seen.
You can ask Honorable Kampiongo to return. We'll give you a few more questions. You did gloss over the issue of somebody withdrawing a specific funding line, and we do know when we look at the documents here that CEDA support had reduced from 31 million to around 3 million. Is that the reduction that you're speaking about? And if not, would you like to just comment on that donor flight? Is it scheduled? Is it scheduled termination, like the support that has a gestational period? Or is there something that we need to worry about when it came to that reduction? And then have we sufficiently covered it, or we're also relying on the Public Audit Act?
Chair, I think the audits for the local authorities, initially they were being financed under the World Bank program. The World Bank program. So last year, in fact, for the audits of this year, this year, that budget line was, I think, was removed for the audit support to the audit of local authorities. in as much as they are still supporting the local authorities, but that particular support to our office was stopped. So what happened was, once that was done, we engaged with the Ministry of Local Government to support us to audit the local authorities, because there are timelines to those reports. So the Ministry of Local Government was able to source money from the local authorities themselves. They got from their funding. That's the money that they channeled to us to be able to audit the local authorities. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to audit them. As you may know, the report for the local authorities is due by 31st November. So we have got to meet those deadlines. So we had to agree with the Ministry of Local Government. That's what happened. And I think that is going to be enhanced now with the coming in of the Public Audit Act. We are going to formalize it in terms of how we are going to do it going forward. Yes. So,
I read on one of your phrases, time-sensitive reports. When is our report on the accounts of parastatal bodies and other statutory institutions for the financial year ended 31st December 2024 coming? As you know, Parliament will dissolve May next year, and it's impeding our programming. Just riding on your own phrase, time-sensitive reports.
Thank you so much for that question. Chair, we are very, very particular this year. We are trying to make sure that all the reports are submitted to the respective committees before the 31st of December. We have started the editing process of your report. We have already submitted the main report on the accounts. It's already, I think, sitting here. So it was submitted on the 24th of September. So we are working on the parastatal report now. We are also working on the local authorities and CDF.
Are you comfortable with 31st December? You want to tell us? I'll let the gossip happen outside with the corporate services DG. Yeah, please proceed to answer the question.
Yes, so Honorable Pyongo, he asked a question saying he has observed in the recent past we've been outsourcing some of the audits. I think you said the Ministry of Finance was contracting. In the recent past, Honorable Pyongo, all the audits which were actually contracted, and I'm talking about the recent past when I've been sitting in the office, they were all contracted by my office. Following the normal tendering procedures and everything else, the audit on ZAMSA, we did it. The audit on, there are quite a few of them that we've actually contracted out. The reason why we contract out some of these audits and we don't do it, we look at the expertise, the complexity of the audit, and sometimes just to make sure that everybody is comfortable with what is being done. So we decide to contract. For instance, the audit of ZAMSA, because it was quite complex, and I think there was a drive also from the people who are supporting the donor community for the audit to be done by a private audit firm. That's how the government requested my office to contract a private audit firm. It was from that perspective that we actually engaged. We listed a number of them in the bid. We went through the procurement process. That's how a private audit firm was actually engaged. We did quite a few of those, and all of these reports have been handed over to the law enforcement agencies. There is a provision in the law which allows the Auditor General to contract. And even when you read this Public Audit Act, you will find the same provision has been repeated. that the Auditor General can actually contract out audits to private audit firms. Or when I see that we are quite constrained in terms of manpower, we can contract out. It's provided for in the law. So,
Honorable Hundubile.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you very much, AG. Thank you for explanation, specifically on the outsourcing of audit services. Our understanding is that even as you outsource, the reports are ideally owned by yourselves. That's right. And I think that where my colleague is coming from, there had been some discomfort previously, where the instructions were not necessarily given by the Auditor General. The contraction of these services were not from Auditor General's office, but other officers. And yet the ones to own the report were the Auditor General. I may not want to go into details. That had created a lot of discomfort on the floor of the House, in that, to be specific, the contracting party in that case was Ministry of Finance directly and away from Auditor General's office. So we had always wanted clarification. Our understanding was that yes, Attorney General or the Auditor General can contract, they will own the report, but in cases where these services are contracted outside the Auditor General's office, I think that's where the discomfort was. I just thought I could mention that.
Right, as we bring this engagement to a close, your parting remarks?
Chair, I can only thank your committee for giving us this opportunity to interact with you. I can assure this honorable committee that we are going to do our best to make sure that we provide the services that are supposed to be provided to the Zambians. I think it's our responsibility to ensure that the public resources are used for the benefit of the Zambians. Thank you so much.
Auditor General, we want to thank you for making an appearance before the Parastatal Bodies Committee, and we will terminate by stating that we view you, and appropriately so, as the supreme audit institution of Zambia, charged with the responsibility to audit all government agencies, donor-funded, any institution that receives government resources. We are of the firm view that your office needs to be sufficiently resourced for you to carry out that mandate effectively. The most consequential reform of your time will be the Public Audit Act, because it speaks to one extremely important fundamental, that is your financing. There are cost centers in all these parastatal bodies for audit. That cost center clearly exists. It's an explicit cost center. So we need to tap into that. We expect to see reform in your institution so that you could have the expertise that you've been subcontracting, under one roof, so that you can actually effectively execute the Public Audit Act. But we must state that we view that as the most consequential reform, of the audit, and it can turn around the institution. The efficacy of your work anchors on how well resourced you are. And if you embark on, or if you embrace a robust, a resilient, a sustainable way of raising resources to finance your operations, your two very important, tasks, then we will see that you will be effectively supporting the people of Zambia by effectively providing oversight over their resources. We would like to urge you on in timeous submission of your reports, and we appreciate that the full report, the final report for the year ended 2024 is already with Parliament. We just urge you to give us quickly the report for the specific committees, particularly the parastatal bodies, so that you could aid our programming We thank you for coming. We withdraw the immunity for now. And just know that that liberty you had, that freedom of speech you had, here ends as you leave that door. And watch what you say now. So the immunity under Cap 12 is withdrawn. And thank you so much for appearing for us.
Much for still being with us on Parliament Television. You're just from watching the Committee on Parastatal Bodies on the consideration of Head 7, Office of the Auditor General, and Head 10, Zambia Police Service Commission, on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year 2026. And making appearance before this committee was the Auditor General. They were making their appearance on Head 7, Office of the Auditor General, and this head for the 2026 has an allocation of 248,119,696 kwacha. And so we continue broadcasting live committees that are sitting both right here at Parliament main buildings and Mulungushi International Center. So keep watching Parliament Television.
The stance of zero tolerance against corruption. It is our firm belief that undermining corruption will directly improve Zambia's capacity to deliver on its development agenda, including the 8th National Development Plan. ZCSD urges the Public Accounts Committee to prioritize increased predictable and transparent allocations to the SCC, as well as constitutional statutory expenditure, because adequate resources are essential for ensuring accountability, integrity, and protection of Zambia's democratic governance. We have noted, honorable members of parliament, that allocation in Zambia does not necessarily translate in disbursement. So would like this committee to take keen interest to find out how much of these allocations have actually been disbursed. And you'll see that we tried to do a trend analysis. In 2024, the allocation was 180. 2025, the allocation is 179.9 million. 2026, 199.9 million. But of this, what's the percentage that has been disbursed? And would have added our comments to that. But I think because of non-implementation of the Access to Information law, we grappled to find this information. We're still working on it, and we just wanted to flag it even the way it is, so that the PAC can also be interested as these institutions are appearing before you, SCC, DEC, as well as FIC. It would be interesting to note what percentage of these allocations were actually received, and you will be surprised as much as I am to find that less of this was actually allocated. When you look at the pie chart that is there, it almost looks like the allocations are the same. We're not seeing a significant increase, and I think that's that's worrying for us. When you look at the budgetary allocations, you can see significant increase in terms of the budget itself, the size of the budget in 2024, 2025, and 2026. But when you look at allocation to corruption, corruption, we're more or less at the same. So for us, it's not correlating to the amount of work that the SEC has to work with. If you look at an example of CDF, which was 1.6, then it went off to more than 1,000% to 25. It means that the magnitude of the work was a lot, was big just in CDF alone. But you don't see that correlation. So I think for us, we'd like to see a correlation in terms of growth.
The Human Rights Commission notes the functions of the Zambia Correctional Service Commission as espoused in Section 12 of the Service Commission Act number 10 of 2016, which functions must be considered in the analysis of the budget estimates allocated to the Zambia Correctional Service Commission. The Commission is therefore pleased to provide comments on the budget analysis for Head 36, Zambia Correctional Service Commission as below. Our specific comments, honorable members: budget overview of the 2026 budget allocation to Head 36. The Commission notes that the Zambia Correctional Service Commission seeks to intensify its coordination role in the implementation of human resource policies through the establishment of human resource management committees, implementing and providing guidelines on management of human resource across all correctional departments, and conduct quality assurance and inspections adherence to the principles and values-based system of human resource management. The Zambia Correctional Service Commission 2026 budget estimate is at 16.1 million, focusing on 3 programs: governance and standards, Zambia Correctional Service Human Resource Management, and Management and Support Services, whose individual program budget allocations are 4.4 million, 8.8 million, and 2.9 million kwacha respectively. The Commission observes that although there has been a meager increment in the estimated budget allocation for the Zambia Correctional Service Commission, the budget line for governance and standards program has been reduced by almost 1 million kwacha. It is hoped that this reduction will not gravely affect the operations of the Zambia Correctional Service Commission in fulfilling its mandate and functions to ensure compliance of set ethics for correctional officers. Adequacy and ramifications of the 2026 budget allocations in meeting set targets. Honorable members, the Commission notes that the budget for the Zambia Correctional Service Commission is adequate, noting that set targets have been reduced for the year 2026. However, the reduction of certain budget lines that are critical in the operations of the Zambia Correctional Service Commission may affect its operations under the Governance and Standards Program that has the ripple effect on service delivery and enforcement of compliance standards, guidelines, and regulations in order to maintain high standards of operations among correctional officers and hear and determine appeals effectively and efficiently. Under the estimated budget allocation for the Human Resource Management Program, the Commission observes a slight increment for personal emoluments and slight reduction for general operations in terms of goods and services. However, the allocated budget, though remaining the same compared to previous years, has not provided for the acquisition of assets to aid the operations of the Zambia Correctional Service Commission. The Commission commends the Zambia Correctional Service Commission's strategy on strengthening the management system of the Zambia Correctional Service Human Resources Management System, as well as its resolve to build the capacity of the Human Resource Management Committees in processing human resource cases related to regrading, seconding, transferring, separations, confirmations, attachments, and promotions of correctional officers. The Commission posits, therefore, that this budget line is adequate and may enhance service delivery with regard to correctional officers. The Commission notes that the Management and Support Services Program has been allocated 2.9 million kwacha, of which 2.7 million kwacha is for general operations, and the remainder to be used for acquisition of assets and payments of outstanding liabilities. In comparison to the 2025 budget, this budget has been slightly increased, and therefore the Commission commends the increase to support activities budgeted for. Alignment of allocated budget with national and international commitments. The Commission observes that the budget estimates allocated to the Zambia Correctional Service Commission is in tandem with the 8th National Development Plan with regards Strategic Development Outcome 4 on good governance. The budget's focus is on strengthening service delivery through implementation of robust human resource policies. The Commission submits that with a strengthened human resource management system and enhanced service delivery, the estimated budget allocation may strengthen the criminal justice system and improve the rule of law, as the correctional service is key in the dispensation of justice and promotion of human rights. In conclusion, the Commission, honorable members, commends the estimated budget allocation for Head 36, Zambia Correctional Service Commission, and posits that the budget allocation is adequate to meet set targets and enhance service delivery, which in turn promotes the rights and welfare of detainees. I submit, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much, honorable members. any areas of clarification? Yes, Honorable Kalatawa.
Just an observation. I noted that the presentation, the